3 o'clock on my side. I am Lorraine Botha. I'm the chairperson for this committee. Members, I'd like you to introduce yourselves for the record. Thereafter, the Minister, the HOD, and all the officials of the Department of Education who is on the platform. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Chairperson. Questions?
Good afternoon, Chairperson and officials. Regan Allen.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Gillian Postman.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Khalid Sayed.
Thank you very much. I think that takes care of all the members on the platform. HOD, Minister, over to you and the officials of the department.
Thank you, Chairperson. Good afternoon to you and to the honourable members. Brian Schroeder, HOD here. I see I've just admitted Minister Schaefer. That means she's in. I'm going to just ask her to also say good afternoon, Chair, if you don't mind. And then after that, I'll ask the EXCO members and our finance people that are in the meeting to just introduce themselves. Minister?
Yeah, good afternoon. Sorry, I'm half a second late.
Thank you. Mr. Eli?
Yeah, good afternoon, Chairperson. Good afternoon, Minister, and good afternoon, HOD. Thank you. I'm the CFO for Education. Thank you.
Good afternoon all. Sally Abrams, DDG Planning, WCED.
Good afternoon. Wanda Conrad, Director Business Strategy and Stakeholder Management.
Erna?
Good afternoon, Chairperson and members. Erna Veldman, Chief Director, Financial Management.
Thank you. I think, Chair, that just one other, Mr. Rian Eisen, if you would just introduce yourself, newly appointed director recently. Rian? Rian, can you hear me? Maybe he can't, Chair, that's fine. He's a newly appointed director in the Financial Directorate. He's also online, but he maybe just can't unmute himself. Thank you, Chair. I think that is our team at the moment. We will still have one or two of the executive members join us shortly.
Thank you very much, Mr. Schroeder. I note you, Member Philander.
Thank you, Chairperson. My apologies. Difficulty connecting. Wendy Philander, alternate member. Thank you.
Thank you. Be welcome. Members, we have done this now for the day in other committees. It seems that we are the last to do it this afternoon. I have not received any apologies. I see that all our permanent members are on this platform, so thank you very much. We are busy this afternoon to do Vote 5 education in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustments Appropriation Bill, B7 of 2020. And I take the liberty of accepting that you have gone through what we need to work through and that you have prepared yourself in posing your questions around what we are going to handle. With that said, Minister, I'm giving back to you if you have some introductory remarks, and then also to the HOD, sir, if you want to add on to what the Minister is going to say. Over to you. Thanks.
Thank you, Chairperson and members. I don't have much to say other than just, you know, we really are just playing musical budgets, I say. Money gets taken away and then we get given a little bit back for something in particular, but our budgetary situation is really dire. I'm very concerned about the impact of it on our performance and our ability to comply with our mandate. But I will leave the detail to the SG and his finance team. Thanks.
Thank you. SG, anything you want to add, sir?
Thank you, Chairperson. Nothing other. I agree with Minister Schaefer. The second adjustment budget is really just making adjustments of give and take. It doesn't substantially change our situation, enhance it in any way. As you can see, there's about as much given as has been taken. And some of the taken we can explain, for example. Generally, just one comment I want to make about that. That which has been taken is because there was in our budget for the possibility of salary adjustments, the agreement with the sector, and the funding has been removed in the expectation that that will not happen in the second adjustment budget, hence a significant release or relinquishment of certain funds. I will ask Mr. Eli just to give a brief overview of, not in detail, of the receipts and relinquishing, and then we'll happy to respond with any questions that might come up. Mr. Eli, please.
Thank you, Mr. Eli. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair. Just in terms of summary, as the HOD is outlined, that the Provincial Treasury has taken away the salary increases that we made provision for in this current financial year. They have taken away about just under R1 billion from our budget. And so it's about 977 million rand that's been taken away from the Education Department. And that was in lieu of the salary increases that we have budgeted for the year under review, Chairperson. So therefore, if that increase does come to fruition, because as you know, that the national government and the unions are in legal proceedings around that matter at the moment. So if that does become negative for the department, and the salary increases needs to be processed, then obviously we will, as the Minister tried to indicate, then we will have challenges around the implementation of that. But we will take discussion with our Provincial Treasury also around that as well. Then, as far as the receiving is concerned, Chairperson, we received an amount of 814 million rand for what we call the President's Employment Initiative. And that has got to do with the fact that we have put teaching assistants to all our schools. And then also, that also then deals with the saving of jobs for governing body posts, and then also assistance for independent schools as well. So Chairperson, in terms of that initiative, there are three elements in terms of that, and we are busy currently implementing that initiative from the President. It's an amount in the form of equitable share as well. So there are particular conditions around that which we have to comply with, but the department is currently rolling that out as well. Then also the department has received money for infrastructure to deal with particular infrastructure interventions that we got. And that's got to deal with particular projects at school level, and some of that's going to do with school safety. So it includes fencing as well, Chairperson. And that amount is about 192 million rand that came through, and we're very thankful for Provincial Treasury around that. However, that means that we have to spend that money before the end of the financial year. And we are hopeful that our counterpart in this regard, which is the Department of Transport and Public Works, will be assisting us to make sure that we can spend that money within this financial year as well. Then the other element, Chair, that we also received in terms of receipts is in terms of rollover funding. And if I can just speak on an amount, the bulk of the 26.8 million rand that we received from Provincial Treasury in terms of rollover funding, about 60 million rand of that is for the MOD program, which is the Mass Participation, Opportunity and Access Development and Growth Centers, which the department's been running for a while. It's an earmark allocation. And as you know, Chairperson, we will only receive rollover funding if there was already commitment in that regard, and we were able to deliver on that particular aspect as well. And so there are other aspects which is around the conditional grants in terms of the math, science, technology, and conditional grant. We've also received funding for the National School Nutrition Program, the NSNP program, and we're grateful for that, Chairperson. That was an amount of 3.3 million rand. And then we also received funding for another conditional grant, which is the Learner with Profound Intellectual Disability Conditional Grant, about 2.8 million rand, Chairperson. So we are very thankful that we received that particular funds. And that's in terms of the receipts, in terms of the provincial and national government receipts that we are trying to deal with in this adjustment by the states as well. Then, Chairperson, just the last element, the honourable members will also be aware of certain of the environments that we had to apply, and that was to deal with certain aspects that we had to make adjustments with before the financial year as well. But we are happy to respond to the members and the committee around these particular environments as well. Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to my HOD. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Mr. Aaron. Thank you, HG.
Brian Schroeder, if I may just make a further comment, please.
I'm cognizant of the time, sir, but I'll quickly give you a minute.
Thank you. It'll be very short, Chair. Just further to the funding that has been allocated to us here now, that is very specifically indicated. We're grateful for it, but we must also understand that when you receive 192 million, let's call it December, because it's now the end of November, and you are forced to spend it in the financial year, it makes it extremely difficult. That's 192 for maintenance and safety fencing. We're grateful, and we'll pull out all the stops to do so. And similarly, 814 million for the Presidential Employment Initiative, which is a forced spending between December and March, and we have to pull that off. Again, I allocated a team, Ms. Anna Veldman and Matthijs Cronje, that's doing wonders with this process. We support the Presidential Initiative. It's intended to, in the very short term, put a little bit of an funding into unemployed youth's pockets, particularly over this time, and particularly where the socioeconomic factors are so difficult over the, let's call it the holiday season. And of course, that will also help stimulate the economy again in the Western Cape, because there's a little bit of spending power then from about a large number of youth that will benefit from the presidential initiative. And so in that context, we're happy for it, but just to be aware, when money is taken away in the first adjustment budget, and suddenly these amounts, I mean, it's about R1 billion given in November. I just want to alert the committee to it. That takes some doing to spend that effectively and efficiently between now and March, and we are on track to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, SJ. I also just want to say thank you very much, Wasima Hassan Musa, our procedural officer, for the logistics around this meeting, and then also to welcome Mr. Ben Daza, the senior procedural officer, into this meeting. And then I want to welcome everybody else who is on the platform, who is listening to the presentation of the Education Department to this meeting. Thank you very much. Members, we are on pages from page 69 up until page 82. Cognizant of the time, we don't have much time. I'm going to stop at 25:2, but without any further ado, the annexures is from pages 83 to 100. I want to ask, switch off your mic if you are not talking. I'm going to give over to you to pose questions. This would include what the summary was from Mr. Eli, as well as the SG and the Minister. Honourable Sayed, I note you, and Honourable Allen. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. This is going to be my one round of questions, and I'm not going to ask any more. Just on page 69, I want to know, with regards to the increase, is that in relation to the building of security fences in schools, as was indicated by the Premier in the SOPA? I just want to know if you could speak to that. That's on page 69. Then, how is the increase also going to assist and address the issue of the crowded schools, especially in the poorer communities. Then I've also want to just get a sense on page 71 regarding the variants and shifts of funds within the VOTO program. Has the department looked at putting in some resources into an investigation around some of the root causes of racism at some of our schools? Then I just wanted to get a sense on page 72 as well. No, it's fine. Let me not go there. Page 72 here. Sorry, on page 72, program 7. There's an indication. I just wanted to know, wouldn't the funds? I wanted to know, does the department not feel that those funds would have been better used if they were used, for example, for learner transport, given the many challenges with the transport, that we're finding in many routes? Then on page, fine there, I'm just looking at, because some questions I've posed and they've already been covered. Okay, my final question, the shifting of funds between votes, program number 6, infrastructure development. We've just heard now in the Department of Transport and Public Works meeting, a mention was made of funds which are reserved for the acquisition of properties for education purposes. I just wanted to get a sense if we could get some details regarding these properties, how many properties, and also how many of these properties will be for the building of new schools in the province. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member Syed. Member Allen.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you also to the Minister and the HOD for the opening remarks. If I can get an understanding, I'm on regarding the youth focus project on page 71. That line item is mentioned a number of times between 71 and 73. If I can get some more understanding around that, where will that be and what does that program entail? Also the Safer Schools project, is that in line of the current, what we're currently doing with the amount of schools, or will that be expanded? But also in terms of the funds, there's an amount for the funds that has been utilized to honor a court order that was imposed on the department. If the department can just refresh my memory, I'm not sure what that is about, but Chair, I assume I should know, but if I can just get that information. But also in terms of the infrastructure needs, and Member Syed covered it partly, in terms of the infrastructure needs, do we have a timeline on when that will commence fully again, etc.? Just information regarding that. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much to both members. Mr. Eli, SG, that is the round.
Thank you very much, Chair. I'm going to make a few general comments. I'm going to ask Mr. Eli or Ms. Veldman to speak to the majority of the financial issues. I will ask Mr. Saleh Abrams to speak to the infrastructure and property acquisition space question, as well as the timeline. I will wrap up then anything that has been left out by those colleagues, or anything that needs just to be added or contextualized, if I may, Chair. I'm going to ask...
and then I'll wrap up after the SG. Thank you.
Sorry, Minister?
Then I'll wrap up after you.
Certainly, Minister. So I'm just going to ask Mr. Eli, Ms. Veldman to start off with, please, and then when they take a breath, Mr. Abrams to kick in, please.
Yeah, thank you, Chairperson. Just to respond to Honourable Member Sayed's questions around the savings on the learner transport, whether that's been a better option. I just want to remind the committee that the department embarked on what is called TREPS, which is the alternative education planning schedule, where learners rotate. That then affected the learner transport scheme. So, and also because of the strict lockdown regulations, and then the spacing requirements. We couldn't load all the buses full, and they had to make double trips in some cases. But generally, Chairperson, because we couldn't make all the trips that we wanted to do, and also because some of the learners.
Mr. Eli.
Pardon, Chairperson. Hello, Mr. Chairperson. Do you hear me? Chairperson? Hello?
Yeah, you now in bits and pieces. Yeah, you in bits and pieces.
Okay. Chairperson, can I just respond to the issue around land transport? Just to
yes,
say,
sure. Please go ahead.
Yeah, just to say in short that the department, due to the lockdown, the department could not, obviously learners couldn't come as a full cohort on a particular day, and therefore we had to make, the bus contractors had to make alternative arrangements in terms of spacing and etc. And therefore, we actually it came about that we actually had savings on learner transport, and therefore we will not be able to spend the full budget on learner transport, given a number of aspects. The one is the reduction in the number of school days. The other aspect is it's around what we call the TREPS, the alternative education planning provisioning, to allow learners to come to schools in terms of the 1.5 meter spacing that had to be observed. And then thirdly, generally, we had, especially in rural areas, we had at the heart of the lockdown, when schools had to return from the 1st of June, we had also parents not sending their kids to school as well. So we had a reduction in the number of learners that also required a transport in that regard, Chairperson. So in terms of the question, we actually had savings on the transport. Then in terms of the Youth Focus program, Chairperson, that is a program that we are running in conjunction with the TVET colleges, where there's an agreement in place that we take, the TVET colleges will take on learners where they are learners that failed in their grades more than twice, and therefore we offer them an alternative practical route that they can follow at the TVET colleges to enable them to acquire other skills, but be able to still have a particular qualification that can ensure employment in that regard. And we still had a commitment towards the TVET colleges in that regard as well. So that is the funding for that aspect as well. Then the other aspect, Chair, around the infrastructure, the Safe Schools matter. As you know, the schools under lockdown was requested to be extended time in terms of nobody at the school for that particular period, and the department then had to put alternative measures in place in terms of additional security during the lockdown period and extended periods of lockdown as well. And therefore, we had to spend extra money around the Safe Schools program, and that is over and above our normal programs we were running during that period as well. Then the Chairperson, around the 30 million rand court order, obviously that is a confidentiality matter where, Chairperson, as you would be aware of, we do have litigations against us on an ongoing basis, and it takes quite a while for these cases to be finalized. But when there is a court order, we have to honor that particular matter. So in this particular matter, the applicant obviously were successful in the litigation against the department, and the department were ordered by the court to settle the matter to that amount. Obviously, as given the confidentiality around the matter, we can't obviously elaborate on that particular case, and you would appreciate that, Chairperson. Thank you, Chairperson. That's it from my side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eli. I'm just going to give Mr. Abrams an opportunity to speak to the security fences and infrastructure timeline. Mr. Abrams.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, SG. Honourable Member Sayed, on page 69, the provision does make There is an allocation for accelerating our fencing program. We had committed through the provincial program to deploy 30 a year. That's now going to be accelerated. And so a considerable amount has been put to fences. And the other area of spend in the short term to the end of this financial year would be on maintenance. There are, as you'd expect, there's a portfolio, a pipeline of scheduled maintenance projects that we would have either halted or, as was the case in 2020, we had allocated monies away from preventative maintenance to emergency maintenance, given the COVID context and also the storms we had in July and August. So the short answer is fences is on the program for the next 6 months, as is a broader portfolio of scheduled maintenance projects at schools that need that kind of support. Unfortunately, within the context of the second question, the crowded schools, the overcrowded schools, we have planned for, and within the constraints that we had or the financials we had, we planned for temporary classrooms to go into schools and into environments that we needed to enhance prior to the start of the 2021 year. Those mobile deployments have been handled. Any additional funding will, of course, go into hotspot areas. But there's certainly, in order of priority, a bit of work to do to ready our schools fully for the 2021 year, given the space and health and safety considerations, the additional safety context with fencing and perimeter security, and a provision for scheduled maintenance. I think that squeezes out the potential to make any significant additional impact in dealing with overcrowded schools. The other reason for that is this is a very short-term injection of capital. The fiscal uncertainty around not having that money in ongoing years makes capital planning, new schools, new classrooms, makes it, from a planning perspective, a problem. In terms of acquisition, there's two contexts I want to appraise the committee of. One is in the context of leases. We have a portion of our portfolio where we operate public schools on leased, in leased environments, leased from private owners, etc. In particular hotspot areas and where we see additional factors being problematic, such as long transport routes, etc., we have tabled at least an inquiry. It's a prospect, as we call it. It's not a full-on outright intention to acquire property. So we inquire about the possibility of taking over those properties, buying them in areas we think we would benefit from in the long term. And so that's the one context for leases. The other one is, again, in a spatial planning context. We know that there are areas like Klapmuts and Hermanus and other on the periphery of Witstrand, Atlantis, etc., on the periphery of the urban metro urbans, where we do need to acquire additional land. We've strengthened our partnership with municipalities, and so that's not necessarily a purchase context, but where we do go into hotspot areas and we do suffer from a lack of land to build new facilities, we are targeting those. Is a list available? It's a mixed list, as I said, of prospects, and so those are not ones that we can declare full-out acquisitions. We work within the financial constraints, and I am very happy to share the list where we are well underway with doing more than just a statement of intent to buy the property, where we are actually in the process. That list is available to the committee, and you'd find that that is, in fact, where the need would appear to be highest in terms of where demand significantly outweighs supply. We will continue to refresh that now with the COVID, post-COVID, and the financial planning context. It is not our strategic intent to go out and acquire more property. We run a portfolio capital replacement, a portfolio with a capital replacement value of 75 billion rand. We need to think about optimizing that footprint now, given the fiscal uncertainty. And so it's only in those two contexts specifically that we'll go out and instruct Public Works to go and procure additional land for us. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Abrams. Chair, if I may just say one or two more things. First of all, just in the context of the youth focus program, which, as Mr. Eli indicated, is coming to an end now. That was a temporary project that was particularly intended to see how it works with redirecting youth into the TVET colleges. We think there's some mixed success there. But why it's coming to an end is because of our investment into technical and skills education. And as we expand our technical and skills education, those learners that would have dropped out in the past would have value in being redirected, particularly into the skills education. So we keep them in the schooling system longer rather than moving them into the TVET colleges prematurely. So that's just one aspect in that regard. I just want to make the comment about the impact of the adjustment budget. Member Syed, crowded schools, the adjustment budget is not making provision for any support in crowded schools. In fact, the reality of the indications of the MTEF going forward is reduced funding, and that reduced funding will inevitably impact more negatively on crowded schools, because it's not just a crowded school issue. You know that with the increased numbers, we actually need money for seats or for schools. We need money for teachers that can teach learners, and we need money for resources. It's a package of three deal to deal with the crowded issues. And so we're doing our best to deal with crowded spaces within financial contexts. And some of that means that you penny wise and pound foolish. You have to transport learners to where there are places where they can't get on their own. If they can get to their own, we have to make more optimal use of where there are spaces. But it's a complex issue. The question also that Member Syed inserted into the conversations around virulence. It's not a virulent question. It was a question about root causes of racism in schools. That's not a virulent issue or a environment issue, but it is an issue that is predominantly in our minds. And for the last 3 years, we've been very actively engaging with those matters. The interaction with schools, with dealing with racism, with dealing with bullying, it's various forms of inappropriate behavior, is a tough context. We excuse me, we have also engaged with programs with schools, which we are continuing and accelerating. We've developed inclusivity program to deal and to manage and to talk about diversity and embracing diversity, a diversity strategy, if you like. This is not an immediate and overnight issue. We've had some significant successes in certain areas, but it is a slow process because it's not a schools issue only. It's actually a societal issue. It's a community issue. The causes of what happens there is less principles than governing bodies and school communities. And that's a whole of society issue where a variety of role players need to take hands with education. It's something that we are continuing to apply our minds to and continuing conversations with. We're more and more empowering also circuit managers to have the conversations with school communities, principals and governing bodies. We remain determined to eradicate any form of racism. Of course, in some of the incidents that come to the fore, the challenge is that they are sometimes pulled out of context. A teacher that makes a video, for example, to imply racism where in fact it is not necessarily as it appears. And some such examples, it causes a lot of strife and grief in communities. But nonetheless, the acknowledgement of the importance of dealing with this matter is very much in our forefront. But it's not a environment issue. It's in fact a root engagement issue in our schools. Thank you, Chair. Minister, I might wish to wrap up.
Thank you very much. Minister, before I get to you, if you just indulge me here. Members, we have not gone to the annexures, which is from pages 83 to 100. Cognizant of the time, it is 15:34, and as you know, we have only until 3:45. At this point in time, I want to indicate, members, you can use your parliamentary privileges to pose questions in regard to the annexures to the department. I want to also ask our procedural officer, are there any members of the public who has indicated to pose a question or to this adjustment budget?
Chair, I've received none from any public.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. With that said, Minister, I give over to you now for closing remarks and indicated before.
Thank you, Chairperson. I just wanted to comment a little bit also on the issue of crowded schools, which remains and has been for quite some time a huge concern for us, as you know. And we're getting this extra money now from DBE from the President's program, which obviously we welcome, but I have a huge concern about the fact that it is only for effectively 3 months. Schools are going to be closed now for holidays. We're going to just get these people into schools for 3 months. Teachers are going to get used to having them there, and suddenly they're going to disappear again. So I really do question the wisdom of this, because I think we might end up having a lot of unhappy schools at the end of the 3 months, when these teaching assistants, who will be a huge help to them, will then be taken away because the rest of our money is, the money is not continued. And in fact, that it will be reduced even further next year. So that is a huge risk. And thank you, for Honourable Syed, for raising it. And any assistance in lobbying national colleagues would be greatly appreciated. But I think we, this is an adjustment budget. I think we're looking at a very difficult few years ahead of us. And we'll have to be extremely focused and do absolutely everything possible to try and keep things going in an almost impossible situation. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Minister. SG, your mic is still on. Is there anything else that you still want to add, sir?
No, thank you, ma'am. Not now.
Okay. SG, I just want to check with you. You will still be in the annual report with us for the department?
Yes, certainly, Chairperson. My contract ends on the 31st of March, 2021.
Thank you, sir. I just wanted to make sure. With that said, I want to now extend my heartfelt thanks from this committee to this department, Minister and the SG, and Mr. Eli, Ms. Feldman. Thank you very much for looking after the money. And thank you very much for what you do for education during this very, very, very trying time. Well done. So we say goodbye to you here now, and we shall see you when we do the annual report for your department next week, God willing. And please have a safe weekend and go well.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Members, we stay behind to conclude on our administrative task.
Thank you, Chairperson. Members, goodbye.
Thank you, Ms. Feldman.
Colleagues.
Bye-bye, Mr. Lewis. Okay, members, are there any recommendations which would reflect in the minute and not in the report? Wasima, have you recorded any?
Chair, it's the only one from Member Sayed's question of the list of land. Mr. Salih Abrams indicated that he would provide the committee with that list.
Okay, members, is that a fair recording? I take the silence as a yes.
All in order, Chairperson. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Now, members, in preparing the report for our deliberations on vote 5, I put to you, Member Allen, I note your hand.
Thank you, Chairperson. Seeing that we have now deliberated and heard from the department, I will move that we support the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Allen, Member Bosman, and Member Sayed. In that order, I note you.
Chair, I'd like to second the proposal for us to support the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Sayed.
Chair, thank you very much. I would like to indicate the minority view of the African National Congress that we do not support the vote. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wasima, may I then ask you, in the light of the proposals that we have, are you able to flight for us our view on the report?
Sure thing, Chair. Hold on a second.
Members, our report then would read as follows. The report of the Standing Committee on Education on Vote 5 in the schedule to the Western Cape Second Adjustments Appropriation Bill B7 2020, dated 27 November 2020, as follows. The Standing Committee on Education, having deliberated on the subject of Vote 5, Education in the schedule to the Western Cape Adjustments Appropriation Bill B7 2020, referred to the committee in accordance with Standing Rule 188, reports that it supports the vote. In accordance with Standing Rule 90, the African National Congress expressed its minority view to not support the vote. Members, in order?
Yes, Chairperson, it's in order.
All in order.
Thank you very much, members. At this point, I then want to say to all of you, thank you for having availed yourself to be in this meeting this afternoon to pose the questions that you have posed to the department in accordance with what we have read in Vote 5 to the adjustments. I want to also then thank the Siraj for the IT support, as well as Ben Daza, and our very, very capable procedural officer, Wasima Hassan Musa. Thank you very much for all the logistics around making this meeting happen. Members, with that said, I'm now going to then say goodbye to you. Please have a safe weekend. Look after yourselves. And this Standing Committee meeting for Education is now adjourned.